Hi, and welcome back to I Create for You. I have another story out of the Haunted Pets book, True Ghost Stories by Alan Zulo. And today's story is called The Haunting Vengeance. After this is over, I will sketch the ghostly pet. If my voice holds out. The Haunting Vengeance. January 4th, 1949. Those eyes, those blazing red eyes, erupted in a fury so frightening that I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even twitch. I desperately wanted to shut my eyes to blot out the vengeful stare that burned into me. But I was helpless, paralyzed by fear. I could do nothing but lay in bed and gaze out my window in disbelief at the ghostly eyes of the very same wolf I had killed 1 week ago. The creepy words in the mysterious journal left 13-year-old Troy Bradford feeling a little skittish. Troy and his father Jack were spending a weekend at a weather-beaten farmhouse in Manitoba, Canada, that had been in the Bradford family for years. It originally belonged to Troy's great-uncle, Scully Bradford, an eccentric loner who got along better with his farm animals than he did with people. Although he didn't see much of his family, Scully often wrote to his nieces and nephews on the holidays. He kept them informed of the rewards and hardships of operating a small farm, and sometimes told them stories about his favorite dairy cows, goats, chickens, and sheep. After his death in 1985 at the age of 77, the Bradfords decided to lease the farmland but keep Scully's farmhouse as a retreat for the family. Troy and his dad were staying the weekend to make a few simple repairs to the place. After putting in new weather stripping around the windows and doors, they began tackling the next project, re-cementing several rocks that had come loose in the stone fireplace. While Jack was outside mixing the cement, Troy was jiggling each stone to see which ones needed to be secured. During his task, he pulled out a softball-sized rock from the fireplace and thought, "That's funny. This stone has never had any cement on it." He peeked in the hole where the rock had been and discovered a small brown book hidden inside. "I wonder what that is." Troy reached in and retrieved an old journal bound in cracked and peeling leather. He opened it to the first page where the title Renegade was scrawled in black pen. The rest of the book was handwritten in bold, flowery strokes on delicate paper yellowed with age. Troy carefully thumbed to a page at random. That's when he came upon the entry from January 4th, 1949, the passage about the fiery red eyes of a ghost wolf. "Dad!" shouted Troy. "Come here and look what I found." Jack examined the journal and said, "Why, this is from Uncle Scully. I recognize his handwriting. He used to send me the most interesting letters when I was a kid." "Who's Renegade?" "Well, that name sounds familiar, but I can't quite place it. Let's read this first entry and see what it says. March 14th, 1948. I have decided to keep a diary about my newest four-legged friend. He is an abandoned baby wolf, about a month old, that I found in the hollow of a log. I looked around for signs of his mother and siblings, but found none. There are usually half a dozen cubs in each litter. It's obvious that this cub has been deprived of the warmth and tenderness of a family and has not suckled on mother's milk for some time. He was shivering and wet, and my heart would not allow nature to take its course and let him die. I have adopted this little wolf pup. I shall call him Renegade. My fellow farmers will not be pleased with my actions, for wolves are the enemies of farmers. I am fully aware that these creatures hunt alone or in pairs in the summer and prey upon farmers' chickens, piglets, and sheep. It is no wonder that these canines are despised and hated. Yet I feel for this tiny wolf. I can no more slay it or let it die than I could take the life of my prized sheep. Melody. I believe there is a good in all wild animals, even the wolf. It is resourceful, intelligent, and cunning, and I, for one, intend to prove that with patience and love, the wolf can be raised to serve as man's good, if not best friend. Now I remember, Jack told Troy. Renegade was the wolf Uncle Scully raised from infancy. He wrote to me about him once when the wolf was growing up. I seem to recall that Renegade died when he was about a year old. It's strange, but Uncle Scully never mentioned him again. Every few days in the journal, Scully detailed the progress he made caring for the cub, nurturing him, gaining his trust, and training him. By the end of the summer, Renegade had learned to sit, heel, retrieve things, come when called, and leave the farm animals alone. September 8th, 1948. Everybody tells me that the only good wolf is a dead wolf. My fellow farmers and stockmen have declared war on these fierce, proud animals. So far this year, more than 100 wolves have been shot in the township, and most everyone is determined to wipe all wolves off the face of the earth. How wrong they are. These animals must be protected. Renegade is proof. He has grown into a handsome specimen. His sleek body quivers with strong muscles under a rich coat of spun silver. A wide, bronze-colored ring around his neck reminds me of an Egyptian king's necklace. He is, by his very nature, unique. Unlike his fellow wolves in this region, he is gifted with a mark that is solely his, an extra 6th toe on both his front feet, and only 3 toes, one less than normal, on each hind foot. I am spellbound by his eyes, which radiate an intelligence beyond my own understanding. They are wise eyes, yet wild and sly enough to make me feel the slightest bit fearful. I know his blood flows with centuries of a killer's instinct, yet I see him in a kindness and an acceptance that we share a common bond of trust. October 25th, 1948. People no longer make fun of me. Now they consider me crazy because twice this week I have ordered hunters off my land for trying to shoot my wolf. They accuse me of harboring a fugitive, a member of a family of murderers. But this is guilt by association, for Renegade is no killer. Yes, I lost a calf and a goat over the summer to wolves, but Renegade was not involved. I saw the proof in the mud. The paw prints of the predators were not Renegade's. He is not wild. He is my pet, and I have tamed him. November 23rd, 1948. My animals haven't been bothered with any wolf attacks since early summer. I'm beginning to wonder if Renegade has told his fellow wolves to keep out because this is his territory. He is my farm's guardian. I feel he's watching over me and my animals, not preying on us. When I hear him howl at night, it soothes me, for it is not a wailing cry, but a bay of contentment. December 28th, 1948. What have I done? How could I have made such a horrible blunder? My heart is crushed under the weight of enormous regret, but there is nothing I can do to alter the tragic events of this awful day. I had just returned home from gathering supplies in town when I heard the terrified bleating of my prize-winning sheep, Melody. She was so beautiful. She had won the blue ribbon for Best of Show at the fair last year. When I raced to the corral, Melody lay dying. She had been brutally mauled, and standing over her was none other than my so-called friend Renegade, with blood dripping from his fangs. I had been betrayed. Once a wolf, always a wolf. How could I have been so stupid? How absurd of me to believe that my love and patience held power over the ways of nature and the instincts of the wild. My precious lamb took her final breaths, and what of this vicious traitor of a wolf who had taken her life? He stood defiantly, staring at me as if he were mocking me for trusting him. The anger that swelled up inside me erupted like a volcano. In one fell swoop, I reached for my rifle and shot Renegade. I leaped high in the air in victory, for he died instantly. My joy and rage knew no bounds. I had slain the killer. My emotions were short-lived, however. They withered in the moment I discovered the horrifying truth. When I reached the lifeless wolf and my fatally wounded sheep, I stopped dead in my tracks. On the ground, on the other side of the water trough that had blocked my view from the back porch, lay the body of an enormous gray wolf with its throat torn. I stood still, not understanding at first what had occurred. I stared long and hard at the paw prints in the mud until the truth hit me like a thunderbolt. Renegade had not attacked Melody. No, the other wolf had committed the deed. Renegade, my trusted friend, had come to my sheep's rescue. He had defended her by fighting the lone wolf to the death. The blood on Renegade's fangs was not from Melody, but from the other wolf. If only I had known, if only I had believed in him. Now Renegade is dead by my own hand. I am too heartsick to write any more tonight. So that's why Uncle Scully never wrote anything more about Renegade in his letters to me, Jack told Troy. He was too upset and hurt. If word got out that he mistakenly shot his pet wolf, people would have made even more fun of him. He simply told me and everyone else that Renegade died. Uncle Scully never gave us any explanation. He hid the journal so no one would know, added Troy. Why didn't he simply destroy the journal? Jack wondered. Why did he keep it? Dad, Uncle Scully wrote some spooky stuff after Renegade died. When I first found the journal, I thumbed through it and read a page that gave me the shivers. With his dad looking over his shoulder, Troy reread the beginning of that entry, which continued beyond what he had read earlier. January 4th, 1949. Those eyes, those blazing red eyes erupted in a fury so frightening that I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even twitch. I desperately wanted to shut my eyes to blot out the vengeful stare that burned into me. But I was helpless, paralyzed by fear. I could do nothing but lie in bed and gaze out my window in disbelief at the ghostly eyes of this very same wolf I had killed 1 week ago. There can be no doubt it was Renegade, even though I did not see his whole body. I saw only those unblinking, glaring eyes framed in the faint image of a wolf's face that floated eerily above the ground. Earlier that night I had gone to sleep, bundled up in my favorite quilt, as the temperature plunged to the coldest of the new winter season. At some point in the darkest of night, the ghost appeared. I do not know how long he hovered outside my window, but eventually the intensity of his stare interrupted my slumber, and I awoke in a paralyzing terror. I lost all sense of time. For minutes, maybe for hours, our eyes remained locked on each other, and I felt forced to relive over and over again that ghastly moment when I killed Renegade. Finally, the wolf's eyes faded into the blackness, and my breathing became as labored as if I had sprinted the breadth and width of my entire farm. Try as I might, I could not escape this appalling conclusion. Renegade had returned from the dead to haunt me. Wow, shouted Troy. That's incredible. Do you think Uncle Scully really saw Renegade's ghost? Only in his mind, Troy. If anything, the haunting was a dream or figment of his imagination. Let's read on. January 22nd, 1949. Those haunting eyes of hatred returned again. Only this time they were not outside my window. They were floating above the foot of my bed. As before, I was roused from a deep sleep only to be frozen from fright by hateful eyes that glowed like embers. To torment me further, Renegade's ghost bared his deadly razor-sharp fangs, causing my terror to build unmercifully. Then he gave a menacing snarl that came from the very depths of all that is vile and wicked. He seemed to be ready to pounce, to sink his murderous teeth into me. But even though I felt my life was about to end in a painful death, I could not move a muscle, nor scream in panic, so profound was my fear. Still, those glowering eyes and lethal fangs moved not 1 inch closer to me. The savage snarl did not grow any louder. When I could stand it no more, I shrieked in my mind, "Go ahead, get it over with, kill me, Renegade, kill me." And in an instant, everything was dark and quiet. For a crazed moment, I wondered if I was dead. But when I gathered my wits, I looked at the window and saw the moon beaming its soft light over the snow-swept prairie. I could feel the chill of my exhausted, sweat-soaked body. I felt no pain, only the aches of untold stress and anxiety. I was still alive and now free of the ghost. And then I heard a distant, fiendish howling that curdled my blood. It was the baying of a cold, ruthless brute. It was the ghost of Renegade. I knew then that he would be back again. I just did not know when. According to Uncle Sully's journal, Renegade's ghost continued to haunt him on 2 or 3 occasions a year at different times on different nights. Dad, look at the dates. He was haunted from 1949. Troy flipped to the last entry in the book. Up until 1985. That was the year Uncle Sully died. I had no idea he was tormented for the rest of his life. Now, do you believe in Renegade's ghost? No, Troy, I don't think there ever was a ghost. It was all in his mind. Uncle Scully was racked with such guilt that he imagined all these hauntings. There's no such thing as a ghost, especially of a wolf. Besides, people in the family have spent time out here since Uncle Scully's death, and no one has ever mentioned seeing or hearing anything unusual. Keep in mind that Uncle Scully loved writing. I believe that every time he got pangs of guilt, he jotted down a description of an imaginary haunting. Poor Uncle Scully, his conscience never let him forget that he killed Renegade. Sunday evening, long after it had turned dark, Troy and his father finished their work, closed up the house, and hopped into the car. They turned off the farm road and onto the highway when Troy shouted, "Hey, Dad, look over there by the shoulder. Is that a wolf?" About 30 yards ahead of them, their headlights shined on a silver-colored wolf trotting in the same direction as they were. Suddenly, the wolf turned around and sprang to the center of the highway, directly in front of the moving car. "Look out, Dad, you're going to hit him." Jack hit the brakes and jerked the steering wheel hard to the left as the car skidded to a stop off the road. "Oh no," cried Troy. "We hit him." Jack grabbed a flashlight out of the trunk. He and Troy ran back to the spot where they thought they had run over the wolf. But after searching the pavement for several minutes, Jack said, "I guess we missed him." "We had to have hit him," said Troy. "We both saw him leap in front of us and then stand there as we drove right over him." Jack checked the front end of the car, looking for signs that he had struck the wolf. "There's no blood, dent, or strands of fur on the fender. Somehow, some way, we missed him." Suddenly a howl shattered the nighttime quiet. "Dad, behind you." Jack wheeled around, and his flashlight beamed at the profile of a wolf howling on the shoulder across the highway. The sleek animal had a coat seemingly made of spun silver, a bronze-colored ring of fur around his neck, and a thick black tail. The wolf stopped howling and then slowly turned its face and stared with glowing red eyes directly at Troy and his father. "His eyes, Dad, they look like they're on fire." "Yes, I see, and something else is very odd. There's no shadow behind him. The light seems to be going right through him." The wolf turned his head away from them and continued his baying. Then he slowly faded away. Troy and his father hurried to the spot where the wolf had disappeared. They found nothing of the wolf except the footprints he left behind in the soft dirt. "Look at the paw prints," exclaimed Troy. 6 toes and 3 toes. "Dad, we just saw the ghost of Renegade." Well, that one was a little different. And my favorite animal is a wolf. So I am going to try to draw Renegade best that I can. Maybe have a little chat and discussion of what I think about this. I think possibly it wasn't just Scully's guilty conscience, but Renegade's restless soul. He also trusted a human. My opinion is, even though Scully had his impressions about wolves, and the people who lived there did too, I'm pretty sure it may sound funny, but animals have their impressions of humans, They've got their own little things to say about who and what to trust and what to hunt and how they were hunted. I think I should have. I'm going to start over and move him over a little bit. I want him to kind of be standing up, glaring, so I'm going to move him over here a little bit further. I'm going to start here like this. Yeah, I'm not going to say that it didn't happen. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes things are a power of suggestion. Sometimes things are in our minds. If we, like they said about Scully's guilty feelings may have played a part in his seeing things, hearing things. But you know, unless you're there, unless you've been there, I guess you can't really say whether or not it made him go insane and he thought he saw these and it didn't really happen. But then again, how do you explain Troy and his dad seeing these footprints, you know? I mean, like, where did they come from? They weren't permanently there. And I mean, this whole incident happened long before Troy was born. So, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to say that ghosts can't leave impressions, but I don't know how you would explain it, what your explanation would be. I mean, if you have an idea, put it down in the comments. I'd like to hear what your opinion is on whether or not ghosts could do something like that. It's sad that he didn't get to see that Renegade was actually doing something nice for him by taking out that other wolf. I mean, like, things probably would have been different with, the townsfolk. They probably would have looked at his Renegade a little bit differently, knowing that he protected what his species considered food, and maybe they wouldn't have been so hard on Scully, and maybe their opinions would change a little bit. But they got to know too, we as a human race, sometimes I think, this is what I feel anyway, that we tend to encroach on these habitats, and then these animals don't have anywhere to go, and you're giving them a food source by having livestock on land that was once where they roamed, and they hunted. So now you're giving them like a smorgasbord. So what are they supposed to do? That's their instinct. That's how they came about. And so you really can't fault them for doing what comes naturally to them. Sometimes it baffles me, how people react to animals, and they're like I don't know how to put it, how they get defensive, like, oh, we got to get rid of these, we got to do something about this. I mean, like, you're in where they lived. I bet you they feel the same way about you. We got to get rid of these. We got to get these people out of here. I mean, this was our home. Why are they here? What are they doing on our land? Why, it's tough. It's, it's just, you got to think You got to think of things like that. I mean, this is you're in their property. That's why people should, like, when they're making developments and stuff like that, they should research that stuff instead of just deciding, oh well, it's money in my pocket. I'm just going to make sure I have people here and living here. And to me, that's just stupidity. That's just greed, selfishness. It's not using your brain for anything other than thoughts of money. And I just don't like how sometimes we do things so selfishly as a human race. We act before we think. I mean, here I am babbling. I'm just giving my opinion. It's just my thoughts. Nothing, everybody has their opinions. They're like they always say, they're like buttholes. Everyone has one. Well, that was just my opinion. That's just the way, my take on it all. I mean, just so much. I mean, we're just taking over everything. We even take over our own species. I think we take over areas that we shouldn't. I love my husband. My son lives in Wyoming, and I just love the idea that he lives in an area that is just so such an area of nature being preserved. He lives near Yellowstone. I've been there and visited him several times. I think I've been to Yellowstone at least 3 times, and I'll tell you what, it's beautiful. But right now, man has its way of interfering again with nature. You can drive through the park, and if you're lucky, you'll observe nature. Like animals. You see the fluffy cows. What are they called? Buffalo, bison. And then there's people who don't think before they do things, and they try to pet them. Yeah. Then it's the animal's fault, because the animal, like you're encroaching on their turf. This is their place. This is where they live. And you should live by their rules when you come to visit. It's just, I don't know. I think we need to learn a little more from our actions. And like they'll have things about this, about how people don't listen and do all these things, and they just do it anyway. They think it's funny. They do it, and they put it on. They put it on social media. They try to, well, that one didn't make it, but I bet you I could do it, type mentality, until someone really gets fatally hurt. Then who do they blame? It's just an evil cycle. I just read, there was a famous, well, I don't know, last year or the year before, there's a bear that was pretty well known, and they have them tagged and everything, and this was Bear 399, and she was some sort of a legend, basically. She had so many litters and lived through so many winters, and she just she was just amazing. She had just had cubs, I believe. she had many cubs over the years, but she had just had cubs and stuff. And it was like soon after I visited my son. I didn't get to see her, but I wished I would have. I wish I would have had the opportunity and was lucky enough to actually get to see her. Um, but she was hit by a tourist with their vehicle. And yeah, it's just sad because she had a cub at that time that was right with her wherever she went, and was there and witnessed its mother get killed by a vehicle. It's just so sad, you know. I mean, I don't know if that person ever got prosecuted for what happened, but you know, you got to be careful that you're going through a national park. You should know that you're going to have to be cautious and have to pay attention. You're in their neighborhood. They shouldn't have to be worried about you. I know when I was there and they took me through, my son took me, and his fiance took me through Yellowstone. There were rangers every so often when you'd see, and then when you'd see them, you knew that there was like bear crossings or a bear sighting, and they'd have to watch people because people would get crazy. You'd see people jumping out of vehicles and standing alongside the road, and it's just like, come on, you know, I know it's something that is amazing to see. Stay in your vehicle, you know, you're just causing more stress, and it's more stress all the way around, basically. Not only are you causing stress for the park rangers, but you're causing stress on the animals in their natural habitat. That's where they live. My gosh, could you imagine if, you know, well, humans do take matters into their own hands sometimes when they feel threatened or taken over. And so common sense should tell you they're wild. They shouldn't have to be worried about humans taking over their area and jumping out of cars, and they can't even go across the gosh darn little road, because there's humans and cars all over the place. So yeah, it's to me, I'm frustrated with it. I love the idea, but you know, if people don't stop being so disrespectful of nature or disrespectful of their habitat, it's soon going to not be something that people can see anymore. You know what I mean? It's going to come to a point where it's not going to be something you can drive through and witness. You're not going to see the majesty of the wolves and the buffalo, bison, and the moose, and all those animals that live there. And it's just going to be to the point where it's not going to be enjoyed by our kids. Our kids aren't going to have that chance. Our grandkids aren't going to have that chance, because you know, someone's going to ruin it. Oh my goodness, the legs are funny on poor Renegade. I'm just trying. It's hard to talk basically and concentrate on what I'm doing at the same time. I know it might not seem like it, but it's tough because I've got all these ideas in my head, and then I'm trying to convey my feelings of the story and I'm kind of like scrambling myself here in my thoughts. That's his other back leg, by the way. If that doesn't look right, I'm sorry. But I tried to get him to look somewhat majestic, and oh my goodness, I'm just making this a mess. Yeah, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you how wolves came to being one of my favorite animals. One of my most favorite. I just have no idea how that came about, but it did. I didn't ever get lucky enough to see one. I was hoping I could see one in Yellowstone. Those wolves are so famous because most of them were reintroduced when they were on the endangered species list. I'm not too sure if they still are, but yeah, yeah, it's. I wish I could have seen. I wish I could have seen that and seen them in their natural. I've seen them in sanctuaries, wolves, but I've never had the been lucky enough to have seen them in their natural habitat. Well, there you go. That's as good as my wolf will get. Let's get a little zoom in here again. Yeah, bring it up so you can see the wolf. I'll do it this way because I think that's the way it's going to be going. I don't know. I had to think about that. But here is Renegade. I tried to do his 6 toes, the funny feet. He got funny feet and 3 toes on the back feet. That must have been something to see that. And that could have been a point as to why his pack didn't accept him. It could have been a thing. I don't know. We'll never know. But thank you for stopping by and listening to me rant on and on about this story and about the majestic wolves and my feelings and my ideas. And I'd like to hear some of yours, so don't be afraid to put some down in the comments so I can hear if you agree with me or you have different opinions, or maybe we do agree. But please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. We have a few more pet ones to do, and then we're gonna try to get out and about again. We had a thunderstorm here again today, so it was a pretty yucky day, and I couldn't get out to do the Witch's Hill, but we will as soon as the weather cooperates. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.